Welcome to part 2 of the Gibson GA-20 restoration video series. In part 1, we covered the initial inspection, which revealed a defective output transformer, unfortunately. However, the main power transformer was good, so that's cool. So now we can move on to part 2. But before I move on to part 2, there's some information that we need to cover. Alright? So I've noticed that some of you like to kind of like filter my videos for errors like a slip of words, okay? For example, like I said Sony instead of Sunny, okay? I say, let's say solder rather than solder. You know what? I don't like the way the word solder is worded. So yeah, I say solder. I may say robot instead of robot, okay? I may say boutique instead of boutique, right? Whatever, all right? Because it kind of brings me back to my childhood, all right? So I remember the show where there's this little critter and he said, well, what's wrong with the way I talk, okay? But somebody, on the other hand, says,
I think you're cute.
Marcia thinks I'm cute. I'm cute. I wish I could fly, but I can't. Alright, anyway, back to part 2. Let's get back to the subject at hand. Part 2, we're going to cover recapping of the amplifier. So that would be the power supply and all the coupling caps. And then, after the power supply is recapped, we're going to power the unit up, make sure that the high voltage is working, and try to get a tone through that amp. So you ready? Let's go. And stop picking on me. So here she is. The old Gibson GA-20. What I'm going to do is, if you look right there, you'll see that I installed a terminal board. Okay, and I put in the terminal board because I don't want to use the old type filter caps that have the leads flying out that kind of hang out at the bottom of your amp. I don't like using those, so I'm going to install these radial type filter caps. So to ensure I have a good ground, we're going to take the old Snozorama Sunger, the old famous soldering iron, and we are going to solder the ground of that terminal board right to the chassis. And that way I don't have to worry about connection issues, and I never have to worry about it loosening up. Here's the new filter cap assembly ready to be soldered. You see this 10K resistor. You wonder, where did that come from? Well, if you look over here by the rectifier tube, between it and the first 6v6 tube, you'll see a resistor nuzzled down there, right? Looks like there's a little bit of a spider nest residue on the side of it. I don't like the location of that resistor, and I'd probably change it anyway, so I'm moving it out here where it's accessible. So I'll bring the rectifier cap wires over to that point, go through the resistor and hit the other caps like it does on the schematic. But now you can actually see what's going on. Alright, so a lot of you guys have been writing in saying, you know, we see you put the parts in there, then magically they're soldered. We'd like to see you solder. Okay, well, here you go. Get my new Heiko in there. As soon as you see the solder starting to move, you know you have a good connection. It does not require a gigantic blob of solder to do the job. As soon as it's melting and moving, it's a good connection. New filter caps are installed. I have a dummy load resistor here, 25K. We're going to monitor the output with my meter. I'm bringing up slow on the variac. Once again, I'm watching the current, make sure nothing goes crazy. So in a minute you should see the voltage coming up on the meteroid, which it is. My current looks good. Remember, the only tube installed at this point is the 5Y3 rectifier. It's right there. It's about 120 volts in. You can see we got 365 volts out. The high voltage is working. Now it's time to carve all these paper caps out, including these green uglies. They're all coming out. Now, in the box of parts that were removed earlier, I spotted this cap, and there's evidence that he used to sit right here on that 6v6. So I'll have to make sure to replace that one too, but I'm going to verify all this against the schematic before I try to test it. Alright, little progress report. See, I got 2 orange drops here. These are the grid coupling caps to the 6v6s. Those are actually very critical to replace. So this green ugly was in the place of one, and this wax Nozoramus was in the position of the other. So I'm going to keep on going across, and soon all the ugly ones will be gone, replaced by some beautiful orange drops. Alright, cap job, corn pleat. Got a lot of orange drops in there. All the waxers are history. So what do you say we just throw in some tubes and see if we can get a signal through this amp? Alright, so what we're going to do is just tack solder these leads on to the output transformerino. Then I'll pop in the tubes and we'll fire this baby up. Of course, I'm going to use a variac and control the situation, but I betcha we'll get something out of this amp at this point. Alright, here we go. Maiden flight. Yeah, I'm listening to the police and I'm drinking Motto wine, right? So there's the music. But you know what? I can't keep that on because I get it popped for copyright, right? Anyway, there's the wine, there's the CD. Got the speaker wired up. Maiden flight, guys. Here we go. So I'm bringing her up on a variac. I'm watching that current. Question is will this thing produce any kind of noise? Of course, in the background, you can hear my dog drinking water. Whoa! Look at there. Bring her up all the way. Now these are the original tubes. So you hear that noise? It's probably a bad tube. Oh, look at there, right? But whatever, the thing's working. So we're really doing good here. Now, let's check the tubes, get that cleaned up, clean the controls, check all the resistoroids, and this thing's getting close, guys. Alright, so we're, as D-Lab says, we're starting to live large in Fat City. This amp is coming to life, right? I've only been working on it for like 8 hours. But the cool thing is this old GA-20 is starting to say, hey, I want to live again. Give me another 50 years, D-Lab. Alright, I'll do it. But we'll do that in part 3. Part 2 is complete. The power supply is rebuilt, coupling caps are in, and we got to tone through the amp. Part 3 will be the final flight of the GA-20 with everything dialed in, perfect sine wave, and maybe I can get somebody over here to play it. Hope you like video. See you again.